Hello! In this series I'm going to be going over budget premium decks that you can build for about $50, maybe a little more, maybe a little less. And within each deck I will be giving you different upgrades you can do. And the goal of this is to give you a good start with the clan. So get you as many good staples as you need, but still have it able to compete. If in a deck you see vanilla crits or heals, instant upgrade you can do is the premium collection crits or the heal guardians, which for the premium collection crits they're getting reprinted in the next premium collection, so you can wait till then to get them whenever they're under $1 each. So yeah, with all that being said, let's hop into it. With Kagero, we are going to be doing Seal Dragons, which are super cheap. Your main unit's Blockade. Blockade doesn't really come up that often in this deck. If you Catalyst 1, you blow up all of your opponent's grade 2s, and then your front row gets plus 10k for each grade 2 retired. And then if you retire nothing, you get a Force Marker instead, which you always go Force 2 and put it on Vanguard. If your opponent doesn't have a grade 2 on the field, then he's base 2 crit, which Force 2 doesn't help that. Use Striding every turn. Force 2 is just pretty necessary with things like Dumjeed Valor and Novell. And then you run Best Harvest. Every time you retire something during your main phase that turn, you get to draw a card. Seal Dragon's whole gimmick is they make the opponent retire stuff and then call grade 2s in their place. Then you get to retire more things. So you run Corduroy and Kersey. Corduroy's meh. He's a countless one to retire something, your opponent checks top 5, and then they can call a grade 2. If they don't, you countercharge 1. So it's basically a free retire. You mainly use it because it's just a free retire. But if they do call off it, you get to draw more off your Best Harvest by killing that unit too. The best card in the deck though is Kersey. It's Soul Blast 1, discard a card. You retire an opponent's rearguard, and then your opponent can call a grade 2 from their hand. They don't have to if they don't want to. If they do not call, then you draw 2. But if they do call, then your Best Harvest will get you more draws off it. So if they don't call off Kersey, then it's basically a draw 3. If they do call off Kersey, it's a draw 2 and potentially more. The deck lacks a lot of finishing power. It's basically just Dumjeed Valor trying to carry. You run Burnrise Dragon in here too, because whenever Dumjeed will stand, then Burnrise will become stronger also. And then you'll usually have a pretty thick hand due to retiring so many things and having Best Harvest. So Burnrise becomes a lot more easier to try to man. And then you run Zomburst as just huge board wipe. If your opponent just is playing like Gold Paladins or something and they have a 7-card field, you can shine a Zomburst and then Best Harvest and then do Zomburst, blow up the field, and then draw 7 cards. The only upgrade you really need is Ziegenberg, which Ziegenberg's not even like super needed. It's just a guaranteed restand, unlike Dumjeed Valor. And then you can also put in Drachma as an actual card that can finish the game instead of grinding the opponent out. Next we have Murakumo. This Murakumo list I just completely yoinked off TIE Fighter's latest video. If you want to learn more about it, he does a really good job explaining his thought process with it. But you're basically using Shirayuki to minus your opponent's power during your turn, and then hitting them like a truck and multi-attacking a lot with it. You use newer Shirayuki whenever they block an attack, you get to minus 10k to Vanguard. So you basically utilize these Shirayukis to make the opponent fairly easily negative 12, 13, in the 20s. You use Hidden Scroll to be able to search out more things you need. You have Frightsicle as draw power, Jakotu Girl to search / soul charge. Your Shirayuki Stride is fairly good. It minus 5k's the opponent's Vanguard for each face-up Shirayuki in your G zone, and then if you're at GB3, all your Shirayukis can attack from the back row. We have Narukami and Eradicators. Narukami's probably the most expensive clan in the game right now, other than maybe Grand Blue or Pale Moon. Those things compete, but basically every build of Narukami is super expensive, so we had to make weird cuts to the deck. So our main unit's Vowing Sword. Whenever you bind something, your opponent can bind the same thing from the deck, and one of your units gets plus 5k. If they don't bind, then one of your units gets plus 10k instead. You combine this with Stunverse. You Soul Blast 1, flip up a G unit, and then you put Stunverse back into your G zone, and then your opponent binds 4 rearguards, 4 cards from their drop. For every 4 cards in their bind zone, you draw a card, and your opponent binds a card from their hand. So you combine this with Vowing Sword to get a massive power boost, because you'll be on Vowing Sword whenever they bind, gain a gajillion power off it. And then your win con is a Conquest Fulgurate. So he basically gives all of your units plus 1k for each card in your opponent's bind zone. And then if they have 7 or more, he gains a drive, 10 or more, he gains a crit. So you utilize Stunverse as like your first stride to get a massive bind off, and then you go into Full Grade, giving a massive boost to your entire board. So Stunverse is a $20 card, so you can only fit in one, but the rest of the deck was kinda cheap. Now you run things like Demolition Dragon and Spark Rain and Cho'o as like early binders to be able to bind more things. They're anti-aggression tools, so if your opponent tries to be aggressive on you, then you can bind their stuff early on. Then with Spark Rain and Plasmatron, you gain more power the more things that are bound. Cho'o's just a really good restander by giving the power from Bowing Sword to it. So upgrades you want to look into: Dragonic Descendant as a way to get multi-attack off as your Vanguard. There's Gauntlet Buster, where it punishes the opponent if they don't play anything, because it gains 5k and a crit for each empty front row rear guard. More stun verses. Vanquisher Voltage. He gives your front row plus 3k for each card in your opponent's bind zone. It's basically just a better full grade dragon. Zuiten gives you extra draw power to be able to search for your pieces a little bit more. MP Dragon is just an insane denial griffin play. And then there's Cohen Shack and the Unruly Dragon combo. You basically blow up 2 things on the opponent's field. Next up we have Nubatama and Dai Hozan. So Dai Hozan is a pretty decent card in itself, so whenever your opponent calls a normal unit from anywhere, then if they have 4 more cards in their hand, they have to discard a card. Your win con is going to be Mizukaze/Rene. Rene forces your opponent to call 2 things from their hand, and then they gain 5k and swing at the van. If you're at GB3, they gain 10k and a crit. So you combine this with Mizukaze, you Soul Blast a grade 3, and your opponent cannot guard with the same things they've called that turn. With Rene, you basically force them to call things down, and then you drop Mizukaze on them, so then they can't guard at the same grade that they just called down from Rene. The rest of the deck is just ways to be more consistent with it. You run Yamishibuki as a way for your Jaku Meso to be able to do its effect. You run Tanya and Hagakure as a package. Your Hagakures can become really big, and during like a Jaku Meso turn, he's a 37k swinger, and then Tanya can bring them out from drop zone also. And then the rest of the deck is just like consistency boosters. And then your G zone's mostly Jaku Meso and Rene. That's your main targets. The only upgrade you should do is Magatsu Gale, which is like a $15 card right now, but it's also getting reprinted in the next clan collection, so it'll be under $1 each probably whenever they come out. Last for Dragon Empire, we have Tachikaze. So your main ride is Spino Driver. He basically just gives you extra Excel markers early and gives you a bunch of draw power to be able to find your pieces a little bit easier. Then you have Savage Mercenary just as a big beater. And then the rest of your grade 2s are either advantage engines or multi-attack engines. Dino Crowd gives you a ginormous beat stick. Megarex is an advantage engine, and then Regiodon is a multi-attacker. Blue Sprint and Little Tyranno also become multi-attackers, and Lacer Terex and Cold Magnum become advantage engines basically. Once you like do your first stride, you'll have like a fat hand and have a really strong multi-attack turn. And for your strides, your main one is Nebulos. After you do your Nebulos turn, then Gluttony Dogma becomes a nice replacement for it. He basically does the same thing. He doesn't utilize equip gauges at all. Upgrades you need, just more Nebuloses, just like 1 or 2 more, and you'll be set for life. And Savage Shooter to replace Lycer Terex. It can cheese out some really early aggression by bringing out Savage Mercenary early on, or setting up your Dino Crowd easier or your Megarex easier. Thank you all for watching. Hopefully I was able to help you guys get started in the premium. All the people I mentioned in the video, their videos to their specific lists will be in the description. If you liked what I did, like, comment, subscribe, do all that. And yeah, I will see you all in the next one.